There comes a moment in life when you realize that the loudest voice in the room is often the weakest. The ones who talk the most, who react the fastest, who rush to prove themselves, those are the ones operating from insecurity, not strength. But you are here to rise above that. You are here to master the power of silence, the art of listening, and the wisdom of observation. Silence is one of the most underestimated strengths a person can possess. In a world where everyone is rushing to be heard, where social media demands constant updates and conversations feel like competitions, the ability to hold your tongue is rare. People assume that the more they talk, the more valuable they become. They think that filling space with words proves their intelligence, their importance, their dominance. But the truth is, the one who speaks less often carries the most authority. Silence is not weakness, it is control. It is the ability to hold back when everything inside you is screaming to react. It is the discipline to withhold words that do not add value. It is the wisdom to understand that not everything needs a response. Those who practice silence intentionally know something the rest of the world doesn't. Words are like currency, and when you spend them recklessly, they lose their worth. Consider the difference between a person who speaks impulsively and one who speaks intentionally. The impulsive talker is quick to respond, quick to react, quick to fill the air with whatever comes to mind. But their words lack weight. Their voice becomes noise. They speak so much that people stop listening. On the other hand, the intentional speaker measures their words. They don't talk just to be heard. They talk to be understood. And when they do speak, people lean in. They pay attention because they know something valuable is about to be said. Silence also allows you to control conversations without even speaking. When you remain quiet, you force others to reveal more. People who are uncomfortable with silence will often talk just to fill the gap, exposing their true thoughts, fears, and intentions. This is why the most powerful negotiators, leaders, and thinkers master the art of silence. They listen more than they speak, and in doing so, they gather information, understand dynamics, and position themselves with wisdom. There is also power in silence when it comes to conflict. Most arguments escalate because both sides feel the need to have the last word. They fight to be right rather than to resolve. But the person who knows the strength of silence understands that not every battle needs to be fought. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any words ever could. It can diffuse anger, shift perspectives, and command respect in ways that shouting never will. Beyond conversations, silence is also a tool for self-growth. When you quiet the noise around you, you can hear your own thoughts more clearly. You begin to recognize the difference between your own voice and the opinions the world has placed upon you. In stillness, you gain clarity. You begin to understand yourself at a deeper level, and in that understanding, you gain direction. The more comfortable you become with silence, the stronger your inner foundation becomes. Great thinkers, innovators, and leaders throughout history have understood this. They didn't rush to speak, to share, to broadcast their every thought. They knew the value of waiting, of thinking, of choosing their words carefully. They understood that true power is not in talking, but in knowing when to talk. Listening is one of the most underrated skills in the world. People think they listen, but what they're really doing is waiting for their turn to talk. They hear words, but they don't absorb meaning. They nod, but they're already forming their response. This is why so many people struggle in relationships, in business, in life itself, because they never truly listen. They listen to react, not to understand. And that difference is everything. The person who listens learns. They gain knowledge that others miss because they're too busy speaking. They pick up on details, on tones, on patterns in speech. They recognize what is being said and, more importantly, what is left unsaid. When you listen deeply, you hear the truth behind the words. You hear the emotions people try to hide, the fears they don't want to admit, the insecurities woven between their sentences. Most people reveal their entire mindset without realizing it, but only to those who know how to listen. Listening is also the key to growth. The person who listens more than they talk absorbs wisdom from every conversation. They don't need to experience every mistake firsthand because they learn from the experiences of others. They don't rush to prove their knowledge. They allow themselves to be students in every situation. And because of this, they accelerate their growth while others stay stagnant. Listening builds strong relationships. People are drawn to those who truly hear them. Think about it. How many times have you spoken to someone who made you feel unheard? How many times have you walked away from a conversation realizing the other person wasn't present, wasn't engaged, wasn't really with you? It leaves an impact. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine talking to someone who truly listens, who asks thoughtful questions, who remembers what you say. That kind of person stands out. That kind of person builds trust, influence, and deep connections effortlessly. The most successful leaders are great listeners. They don't just command, they observe, they pay attention, they listen before they speak. This is how they understand people, how they anticipate problems before they arise, how they make decisions with clarity. A leader who doesn't listen loses their team, loses their vision, and ultimately loses their ability to lead. But a leader who listens inspires loyalty, respect, and trust. Listening also gives you control in conversations. When you stay quiet and allow others to talk, you gather information while they reveal their thoughts. The person who talks the most often gives away their position first. They expose their emotions, their weaknesses, their intentions. But the listener, they remain composed, absorbing every detail, understanding more than what is being directly said. This is why silence and listening together create an incredible advantage. True listening requires discipline. It's easy to interrupt, to rush in with advice, to assume you know what someone means. But real listening means staying fully present. It means setting aside your own thoughts, your own need to respond, and giving your full attention to the other person. It means noticing not just their words, but their tone, their body language, the pauses between their sentences. Because real communication is more than words. It's about understanding the whole picture. The ability to listen is rare because it requires humility. It requires admitting that you don't know everything, that there is value in what others have to say. It requires patience, the willingness to slow down, to absorb, to process before responding. And that patience and that willingness to truly hear, you gain an advantage that most people never will. Your reactions shape your life more than you realize. Every day, situations arise that test your patience, your emotions, and your ability to stay in control. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker makes a passive-aggressive comment. A family member says something that triggers you. In those moments, most people react immediately. They get angry, defensive, or frustrated without even thinking. But here's the truth. Your first reaction is often your worst reaction. The moment you let emotions take over, you lose control. Mastering your reactions doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means learning how to pause before you respond. It means training yourself to think before you speak, to assess before you act. When you react impulsively, you hand over your power. You let the outside world dictate how you feel, how you behave, how you move forward. But when you control your reactions, you control your life. You no longer allow circumstances or people to manipulate your emotions. You decide how you respond, and that decision lies your strength. Think about the times when you reacted emotionally and regretted it later. Maybe you said something in anger that hurt someone you love. Maybe you sent a text you wish you could take back. Maybe you made a decision based on frustration instead of wisdom. Those moments teach an important lesson. Reaction without thought leads to consequences. But when you pause, when you take a breath, when you allow logic to guide you instead of emotion, you make better choices. You respond from a place of strength, not weakness. Emotional reactions don't just affect your personal life. They impact your success. In business, the ability to remain calm under pressure is one of the most valuable skills you can have. Leaders who react emotionally lose credibility. They make impulsive decisions, damage relationships, and create instability. But those who stay composed, who assess before responding, who control their emotions instead of being controlled by them, they command respect. They make decisions based on wisdom, not temporary feelings. Your reactions also determine your inner peace. The more you allow external situations to trigger you, the more you give away your energy. Every time you react to negativity, you feed it. Every time you engage in unnecessary arguments, you drain yourself. But when you choose not to react, when you decide that not everything requires your energy, you protect your peace. You create a barrier between yourself and the chaos of the world. You develop an unshakable mindset where nothing can disturb your calm unless you allow it. Mastering your reactions takes practice. It requires self-awareness, the ability to recognize when emotions are taking over, and the discipline to pause. It means learning to step back, to observe, to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this worth my peace? More often than not, the answer is no. Most things that upset you in the moment won't matter a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, but the way you react in those moments will. The strongest people are not those who overpower others with words or emotions. They are the ones who remain unshaken, who control their emotions rather than being controlled by them. When you learn to master your reactions, you gain a power that few people ever achieve. You become the person who cannot be provoked, who cannot be easily thrown off balance, who moves through life with clarity, purpose, and control. Most people only see what's on the surface. They hear words, but they don't pay attention to what's behind them. They look at situations, but they don't study the patterns. They walk into a room, but they don't notice the energy. And because of this, they miss opportunities, misunderstand people, and make poor decisions. But the person who masters the art of observation, they see what others overlook. They understand what others miss. They move through life with an awareness that gives them an undeniable advantage. Observation is about more than just looking. It's about seeing. It's about training your mind to slow down and process what's happening around you. The way people behave, the way they speak, the little details that most ignore. These things tell you more than words ever could. Someone might say they're fine, but their body language says otherwise. A person might smile, but their eyes tell a different story. A conversation might seem casual, but the way someone avoids a topic reveals everything. When you sharpen your observation skills, you begin to understand people on a deeper level. Great leaders, great negotiators, great thinkers all have one thing in common. They observe first, speak second. They don't rush to conclusions. They don't assume. They watch, they listen, they gather information before making a move, because they know that knowledge isn't just in what's said, it's in what's left unsaid. It's in the hesitation before someone answers a question. It's in the way someone shifts in their seat when they're uncomfortable. It's in the small, almost invisible details that reveal the truth. Observation is also the key to personal growth. The more you observe yourself, the more you learn about your own patterns, habits, and tendencies. Why do certain things trigger you? Why do you react a certain way in difficult situations? Why do you repeat the same mistakes? Most people move through life on autopilot, never questioning their actions. But the ones who observe their own behavior, who study their own reactions, who analyze their own emotions, those are the ones who grow. Because self-awareness is the first step to transformation. In relationships, observation helps you understand people at a level most never reach. Instead of taking words at face value, you start to see the deeper meaning behind them. You begin to notice when someone is pulling away before they even say it. You recognize when someone is uncomfortable, even if they try to hide it. You see patterns in behavior that allow you to predict what someone will do next. And when you have this kind of insight, you navigate relationships with wisdom instead of emotion. In business and leadership, observation separates those who succeed from those who struggle. The best strategists don't just react to what's happening, they anticipate it. They notice trends before they become obvious. They read people before they reveal their true intentions. They walk into a room and sense the dynamics without anyone saying a word. This ability to read between the lines, to notice details others ignore, to analyze before acting, that's what puts them ahead. But observation isn't just about studying people. It's about studying life itself. It's about paying attention to opportunities, recognizing patterns in success, learning from failure without having to experience it yourself. The world is constantly teaching lessons, but only those who are watching will learn them. Most people are too distracted, too consumed with their own thoughts, too busy talking to see what's right in front of them. But the observer, they are always learning, always growing, always aware of what's really happening beneath the surface. Most people believe that power comes from dominance, from speaking louder, from forcing their opinions onto others. But true strength doesn't come from reacting, from arguing, from proving a point. It comes from self-control. It comes from the ability to remain steady when the world is trying to shake you. It comes from mastering your emotions instead of letting them master you. Because the moment you let emotions dictate your actions, you surrender your power. The moment you react without thinking, you give control to the situation instead of maintaining control over yourself. Self-control is the foundation of wisdom. It allows you to step back before making a decision. It gives you time to process what's happening instead of rushing into a response you'll regret. When you control yourself, you think clearly. You don't make choices based on impulse or anger. You act from a place of strength, not weakness. And that ability to remain calm, collected, and focused in the midst of chaos is what separates those who lead from those who follow. When you lack self-control, life feels unpredictable. Every little thing upsets you. Every challenge becomes a personal attack. Every disagreement turns into a battle. And the worst part? You become easy to manipulate. When people know they can trigger you, they control you. They know exactly what buttons to push to get a reaction. But when you develop self-control, you become untouchable. No one can force you into anger. No one can make you act against your better judgment. You choose your response, and in that choice lies your strength. Self-control doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. It means managing them. It means recognizing when frustration is rising, but choosing not to let it dictate your actions. It means feeling anger, but deciding to respond with wisdom instead of rage. It means acknowledging disappointment, but refusing to let it consume you. Because when you can regulate your emotions, you can navigate life with clarity. You don't get thrown off course by setbacks. You don't waste energy on things that don't serve you. You move forward with purpose regardless of what's happening around you. In relationships, self-control is what keeps conflicts from turning into disasters. It stops arguments from escalating. It prevents you from saying things you can't take back. It gives you the patience to listen instead of reacting. Most people destroy their own relationships because they lack control over their words and actions. They let frustration turn into accusation. They let temporary emotions create permanent damage. But when you develop self-control, you learn how to step back, how to process before you respond, how to handle disagreements with maturity instead of aggression. In leadership and success, self-control is what keeps you focused. It stops distractions from pulling you away from your goals. It allows you to stay disciplined even when motivation fades. Success isn't about working hard for a few days. It's about consistency over time. And that consistency is impossible without self-control. Without it, you'll give up when things get tough. You'll chase every new idea instead of staying committed to what matters. But when you master self-control, you develop the discipline to keep going, no matter how difficult the journey becomes. Self-control is what allows you to stand firm in a world that wants to shake you. It is what keeps you calm when others are losing their composure. It is what makes you powerful, not because you dominate others, but because you refuse to be dominated by anything. Not by anger, not by fear, not by the need to prove yourself. When you learn to control yourself, you gain the greatest power there is, the ability to choose your own path. No matter what obstacles come your way, the world is constantly moving. Noise, distractions, opinions, endless streams of information. Everything around you is pulling at your attention. Society tells you that you need to move fast, speak quickly, and react instantly. But wisdom doesn't come from rushing. It doesn't come from constantly talking. It doesn't come from reacting that happens. Wisdom comes from stillness. It comes from the moments when you choose to pause instead of act, when you choose to listen instead of speak, when you choose to observe instead of jump to conclusions. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about creating space for clarity. When your mind is always filled with noise, there's no room for insight. When you're always talking, you can't hear the truth. When you're always reacting, you never give yourself the time to fully understand what's happening. The greatest breakthroughs in life don't happen in moments of chaos. They happen in moments of quiet. When you slow down, when you allow yourself to reflect, when you resist the urge to fill every silence with words, that's when real wisdom emerges. Look at the most powerful and influential people in history. They weren't the ones who spoke the loudest. They weren't the ones who reacted impulsively. They were the ones who understood the power of stillness. They were the ones who knew when to be silent, when to step back, when to wait. Because in waiting, you see what others miss. In silence, you hear what others are too distracted to notice. In stillness, you gain the perspective that allows you to make the right decisions instead of the rushed ones. Stillness also teaches you patience. In a world that demands instant gratification, most people act out of urgency rather than wisdom. They want answers now. They want results now. They want solutions immediately. but wisdom understands that some things take time. Some answers don't come right away. Some opportunities require waiting. Some situations demand that you pause and let things unfold naturally. And the ones who understand this, who know how to wait without frustration, who know how to trust the timing of life, are the ones who ultimately succeed. In relationships, stillness allows you to understand people more deeply. When you're not rushing to respond, you can actually hear what someone is saying, not just their words, but their emotions, their fears, their desires. You begin to pick up on the things they aren't saying. You start to notice the patterns in their behavior, the unspoken messages behind their actions. And because of this, you navigate relationships with wisdom instead of assumption. You respond with understanding instead of reaction. You create connections based on depth, not just conversation. In success, stillness is the secret weapon that most people overlook. The world tells you that you need to be constantly working, constantly pushing, constantly moving forward. But the most successful individuals understand that true progress requires moments of reflection. They know when to step back and reevaluate. They know when to sit in silence and let their thoughts settle. They don't act just for the sake of acting. They act with intention, with clarity, with purpose. And that only happens when you embrace stillness. Stillness doesn't mean inaction. It doesn't mean passivity. It means developing the ability to pause before making a decision. It means creating space between stimulus and response. It means giving yourself the time to process, to reflect, to see the full picture before you move forward. Because when you learn to be still, you don't just make better choices, you gain a wisdom that most people will never access. You develop a mindset that isn't easily shaken, a clarity that isn't easily clouded, a strength that isn't easily broken. Mastering the art of speaking less, listening more, reacting less, and observing more is not just about communication. It's about wisdom, self-control, and personal growth. When you stop filling the silence with unnecessary words, you gain the ability to hear what truly matters. When you listen deeply, you understand people and situations at a level most never reach. When you resist the urge to react impulsively, you maintain control over your emotions and decisions. And when you sharpen your ability to observe, you see opportunities, truths, and lessons that others overlook. Life rewards those who move with intention, who act with clarity, and who understand that wisdom isn't found in noise. It's found in stillness. The most powerful people are not the loudest nor the most reactive, but the ones who remain steady, patient, and aware. They know that strength is not about forcing their voice into every conversation, but about choosing the right moment to speak. They understand that true intelligence is not in responding to everything, but in knowing what deserves their energy and what does not. If you want to elevate your life, start by mastering these 4 principles. Speak with purpose, listen with intent, react with wisdom, and observe with clarity. Because the moment you do, you step into a level of power, influence, and success that most will never experience.